Hello everyone and welcome in. I'm Quincy Cat and now we have something a little different for y'all. We're going to dig into twin stuff as we usually do, but this time I want to dive into how to play as twins, how to have fun as them, and basically how I play as the twins. So we're going to cover the basics in this particular video, but we're going to also, as we evolve in this series, we're going to dive into advanced techniques, how to counter the twins, what maps are particularly good for them, builds, etc, etc. So we're going to cover the whole gamut of twin stuff. But as I said, to start off, let's cover the basics. These are the twins. We got Charlotte, we got Victor. Charlotte is your typical 4.6 killer, your normal speed like a trapper would be. Meanwhile, Victor is a 6 meter per second killer. He's quite a bit faster. If he hits a survivor while they are healthy, he latches onto them. Otherwise, he will down them if they're actually already injured. His pounce is somewhere between a hatchet throw and a demogorgon pounce, if you're familiar with those. It has pretty good range, but can't go as far as a hatchet throw can. So makes for some fun shots, though, let me tell you. Their perks. Coup de grace is an actually very useful perk, if not really hard to pronounce. You get 2 tokens every time a gen is completed, and you get an 80% addition to your lunge for each token. So really, really useful at getting those hits with Charlotte when you need to get them. Order, probably not going to use it with twins ever, but pretty useful if you use like Cenobite or someone else like that that interacts with items a lot. You get notifications when items are interacted with. That can sometimes be useful, but not really all that helpful. Last but not least, oppression, pretty useful. When you damage a generator, up to 3 other random generators also begin regressing. If you pair this with pop or overcharge, you can have a little bit of fun by spreading a little bit of generator regression pressure, but otherwise it does nothing on its own for the most part. So with all that covered, we're going to dive in first in this video on how to use Victor in particular. Alright, first up, let's show how different the speeds are. We talked about 4.6 meters per second versus 6 meters per second. What does that actually mean? Let's go ahead and compare them. So we have Lily down there. Thank you, Lily, for hanging out down there for us. Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a walk, Charlotte. But that is much faster. Very good. Thank you, Hattie. Alright, so we also talked about pounce distance and how somewhere between a Huntress Hatchet and a Demogorgon Pounce. What's that really look like? Well, let's make sure we don't hit our Hattie here, but... So if we would have hit right here and she was actually in front of us, she's not so we don't injure her, we wouldn't have hit her. And you can see where Charlotte is there. Not exactly a massive distance, but pretty decent. Pretty decent. You can do quite a bit with that given the speed as well. And as mentioned before, hills also give you some options. So, as an example, Victor can go pretty far, but you do have to find height advantages sometimes. Now, of course, one of the trickier things you have to figure out with the twins and with Victor is how to actually pounce on people. Turns out, survivors are pretty hard to catch. We don't have any add-ons here or anything like that. What you want to do is use your hands as a window frame. Got this idea from the absolutely wonderful Pixel Bush. And it works perfectly. If we keep her in our hands, we can hit her. And obviously things in your way and stuff like that will change that, but as long as you get her in your window frame of Victor's little fingers, you have a good chance. And you have to keep them there. And also, when you're looping in this situation, you almost never want to shoot from far away. Never want to do that. Instead, we want to get right up on Hattie, get as close as we can, and then fire. This ensures that she can't do a last second move, because dodging Victor, not terribly difficult in the end, just like dodging a Huntress Hatchet. But when Huntress has her hatchets dodged, nobody kicks her little hatchet in the face, but they do kick little Victor in the face. Goodbye, Victor. Alright, so we covered close range window frame pounces. What about when you want to go for those longer range ones? Well, you really have to be careful, particularly when you're in chase with survivors. If you know the type of survivor you're dealing with, but perhaps you've chased them a couple times in the game before and you realize that they don't look behind them much and they have a tendency to run to a very specific location, we can take advantage of that. Lily, you mind being a bit of a W holder for me? So as we see that she's not running away from us terribly efficiently, we can just line this up, get her in the window frame, and fire. But you need to be very careful with these situations. The further you get away, the easier it is to dodge Victor's pounces. And if she is one to start looking behind her, then we are in a much different situation. We're going to give a chance for Victor to come back here, and we're going to chase a smarter Lily. Lily is going to so efficiently dodge this. Go for it, Lily. She found a window immediately. Good choices, good choices. I'm gonna go find her up front. And we're gonna go for a long pounce. She's keeping stuff in between us. She's making sure she's hearing me charge up. She's going to make this as miserable as possible. So be really careful with your long pounces to make sure that you're able to catch a survivor off guard and you're not just wasting your time. You're much better to get them into a loop like this. And now we can get into a longer pounce that we can actually have a much better chance at hitting. Now, how exactly does the Victor pounce work, right? So you charge up a pounce and you'll notice the camera sort of locks into place automatically for us. Even if I'm looking down, if I start locking the pounce, it snaps it into place. Looking up at the sky, snaps it into place. We'll use this tire here as sort of a marker for where we're jumping from. If we jump towards that sign and we lean all the way back, or lean all the way up rather, pointing up as high as we can, as far as the camera will let us, this is the limit here. We'll jump and we'll pretty much hit that sign. Not too shabby. Now, if we go back to the same spot, charge up our pounce, and look as far down as we can, which this is the max limit here, we can look down. We'll jump, and we will come, a good little bit short of that sign there. When we're leaning back or aiming up with Victor's pounce, we're affecting like where the apex of the arc of the jump will be. So this will give us a little bit more distance, a little bit more height as well, which that becomes really important when you're dealing with pallets and or windows, right? So we have a pallet that's down here. Go ahead and do some practice jumps around this one. As we can see, if we get way too close to it and charge up our jump and aim too low, we're just going to jump right into it. So we want a line drive jump a lot of times over these pallets. At least that's how I prefer them, because if you go too high, it gives survivors the option to duck under your jump. So if we get just a couple steps back and aim up as high as we can, we go flying. We're all the way up on top of this car over here. We're hopping in a Camaro and driving away. We don't need to do that. What we want to do is keep it a nice sort of low line drive, fire over it, aim for that truck basically. The advantage of aiming up in these situations is that you don't have to take as many steps back. And a lot of times if survivors are standing, you'll catch them. If you're also catching them in the middle of a vault, this will almost always still hit them. So you don't always need a line drive. However, line drives are a little more consistent, and a lot of times with Toy Sword, you can charge them up a little faster around these corners. Toy Sword will let you charge your pounce faster. So it's worthwhile to be able to know how to do both of them, because they're both very useful. And it also will come in very handy when you get over to your little window sections as well. So windows play very similarly. The big difference that you'll have with windows is that you have medium vaults that are very forgiving. So if you imagine of someone coming around this corner, chasing around, and you don't have time to charge up a nice line drive pounce from farther away, and you want to just charge up a quick pounce, quick as you can, close as you can, that's still probably going to hit a medium vaulter if they're not going to get the full fast vault. So ideally, we want to do a line drive, go shooting straight across there, and hit that nice and consistently. That way we're not giving them a chance for a ducking situation, because Victor's a lot like a hunter's hatchet. The hitbox is pretty large, so if they're ducking over there and we get a nice low shot, we're still going to hit them. However, if we go really, really high, something like this, there's a chance that we just go flying right up over the top of them. So We almost kind of want to hit them in the middle of the vault if we can in these situations. That's what's going to be the most consistent. But let's go ahead and see it in action. We'll go ahead and chase our little Hattie here. Lily, do you mind? We'll give her a little chase here. Force her through a window. Get a quick snag on her. We'll have her quickly crush Victor here. We'll go back for one more. You would be so kind, Miss Lily. Thank you, thank you. As you can see, cooldown of Victor, not terribly long when people crush it. We'll dig into that more later. Let's give her another spin, shall we? Oh, not enough time for me to catch her on that one. The other fun part is you will be able to force people away from those windows, and that's honestly half the power of this, right? Just like with Huntress, like, yeah, her hatchets are great, but the fact that a survivor can't take that window because she has hatchets, it's the same principle here. We have Victor, she can't take that vault cleanly, and we get the down as a result. Thank you very much, Lily. I appreciate your help. Now we're at Garden of Joy. I want to talk a little bit about Killer Instinct. Obviously, people think of Legion a lot when they think of Killer Instinct. That's probably the killer that leverages it the most, though it's used in a few other scenarios. Wesker's another great one, huh? But twins get a little bit of Killer Instinct value as well. If you're near Victor, then you will generate a little bit of Killer Instinct. As we can see here, Killer Instinct gives us quite a bit of value here on a map like Garden of Joy. I don't typically recommend deploying Victor in such a way like this. There are particular maps like this one. There's also Haddonfield, where you know someone's upstairs. You just absolutely know someone's up there. And in those cases, you can deploy Victor. You can confirm that someone's up there with that Killer Instinct. And now they have pretty much no idea that Victor's up there, or at least they're not going to care as we head upstairs and we hit them on our way out the window. That should give us enough time to switch over to old Victor and hit him with the old 1-2 punch. So that's one of the more obvious ways to make some use of Killer Instinct. It can let you know if people are near gens. You will find that more often than not, though, the best use is just to know where your slugs are. So we know where she is because of a little bit of Killer Instinct. Lily, could you crawl further away for me, please? She's going to eventually get outside of Killer Instinct range, and it makes a little extra heartbeat there at the end as she leaves the range, giving us some indication as to where she went. There she goes. It's very, very useful, obviously, for finding people after you're done with Victor. That's the main reason to have Killer Instinct, but there's one other reason that I want to get to as well. So, the other main reason that we really want to have Killer Instinct, obviously we want to know where our slugs are, but also when we down someone, such as our friend Hattie here, perhaps we have something else we have to do, you know? Charlotte needs to grab a cup of coffee, needs to do some taxes, perhaps she needs to meet a friend at the park, who knows, it could be anything. But all of a sudden we hear a second set of heartbeats, and that's how we know we can come back over here. David's gonna run away again, thank you, bye David. One set of heartbeats again, second set, we know that someone is coming to kick Victor. And there he goes again, we can chase him off. This is generally how snowballs happen, is that someone will come in when they are injured. In this case, David's doing the smart thing. Honestly, if he wasn't a bot, he'd probably go ahead and take the hits, and that would be the best scenario. But this is probably the most critical use of Killer Instinct, is knowing when to switch back, when you can just let the Victor be kicked. That's a totally viable situation sometimes. But here we know that David left. This is also really helpful here too if someone was perhaps lurking with a flashlight. Maybe we thought David has a flashlight. We would have a pretty good indication that he's not around here. They can crouch, of course, to dodge the killer instinct. People almost never remember that, but you can do a quick sweep of the area, and that's always going to make them stand up, right? And that'll make them stand up, start moving around, you'll get the heartbeat again, and then you can come in for the safe pickup, and not have to worry about any flashlights or flashbangs or any situation that may be occurring there, and get yourself to a hook without any issues. Thanks, Lily. Alright. Let's talk about lockers. They're of particular interest to the twins because they can really thwart Victor sometimes. But they can also be a big win for us. So, we're going to find our little Hattie over here. I believe she's in one of these lockers. Oh no, I don't know which locker she's in. Oh, there's our Hattie. So, they may think that they can hide from Victor, but they can't quite. And as you see here, Victor holds the locker shut, and we can grab her out of the locker with just the quick hit of our spacebar. We're actually letting her go because we have more plans for her, but we also get killer instinct, you'll see. Other than that though, the thing you have to keep in mind is if we chase her far enough away, she just keeps on running. She hops in that one. It's a pretty good chance. Especially if we're a little disorientated, or maybe someone else gets in our way. Perhaps someone takes a body block and all of a sudden I have to take this swing. Now, there's a great chance we don't get to her in time. She gets away. Off she goes. That can be a real bummer. Another situation that can occur. We chase you to yet another faraway locker. Actually, just hop in that locker over there. It's fine. Let's pretend Charlotte's super far away here, right? Now she's in there. Let's say Charlotte's on the other side of the map. I don't really want to put Victor on here. It's going to get Victor crushed. Now I'm going to lose Victor. That's a huge bummer. And let's face it, I want to injure this person, right? So there's a couple different things we can do. We can put Victor just anywhere here. I kind of like doing something a little sneaky like this. And we can rely on what I like to refer to as the fact that, like, everyone wants to kick Victor. Who doesn't want to kick Victor? Nobody. Everyone wants to kick him. I don't know what the deal is, but people love it. So if we just go ahead and go off and do something else, what do you know? We hear Hattie walking around already. Hi, Hattie. Couldn't resist, could you? Although, we did also see that she was trying to crouch a little bit. But there's always at least a little bit of a hint. So she's going to run back in the locker. We can go back to what we were doing. The best way to counter this, usually, is by pressuring something else. If we can hit another survivor down here, if we can hit some pop goes the weasel onto something, now that survivor has to start thinking, well, now I'm just wasting my time back here. But, worst case scenario, hold them in there and get Victor back. If Victor's not getting kicked, if they're not doing anything with it, at least we can do this. So now she has to make a decision. Do I want to actually stay in this locker for the rest of the game while I make my way over there? Or does she want to destroy Victor? A lot of times survivors think that keeping Victor is the play anyway, so sometimes you'll find that people will actually do this and stay in there until you get all the way over here and then pop out. Pop out right about now. And now the best I can do is get an M1. So now I've just walked all the way across the entire map just to hit her once. Don't fall for that. Make them break it. Go find something else to do by pressuring the other 3 survivors that are typically in a DVD match. Because remember, if they're just staying in a locker, hey, at least you're playing a 3v1 instead of a 4v1, right? That's kind of useful. Alright. As you can expect in DVD, survivors are going to bring you to Shack. It's just going to happen. And even if you're Victor, they're still going to bring you here. It's home sweet home to survivors. I would bring them here myself as an avid survivor player too. But it poses a lot of interesting problems for Victor. You would think it's easy enough to shut it down, and for the most part, the fact that we're crazy fast does shut it down. But they do have this pesky Shack pallet, and Victor can't kick things, so that will cause some problems. As a result, people will throw Shack pallet pretty willy-nilly on this map, but For the most part, they're going to try to use that window, especially if they're healthy. They're almost always going to try to take that window before before they throw that pallet, just like you would expect in DBD for the most part. The pallet, or the window rather, is rather difficult to hit, but you don't actually have to get through the window to get a hit either. Lily, if you can stay out of the window for just a moment to make sure I don't accidentally hit you. Obviously, we can go flying through straight like that. That's great. That will get a hit if they do not hit that vault super fast. Like if they get all the way through there and they can duck on the other side, that's not a hit. In some ways, you almost kind of want to hit a little bit lower. You know, you can actually even hit as low as like the windowsill and still register hits most of the time. But what you want to be careful about is going flying all the way through like that. Instead, keep your aim a little bit lower. You're gonna go flying through there. It's gonna be fine. Any higher than that, I think it's a bit rough. But we've talked about windows before in this video already. But Shack, I think, especially to map, you'll find on like Backwater Swamp, I find the windows are kind of clunky and a little weirder to hit. Enemy players will understand. But otherwise, yeah. It's your typical window, and survivors are going to, much like when you're facing Wesker, or much like when people are playing against Wesker, they're going to try to get you to fly through this window. They know how to play it really well. They're going to come through here, they're going to fake it at times, they're going to see if you fly through. So be mindful of that, watch out for that. Try to aim a little off to the side sometimes if you can, catch them in the middle of it. Now when the shack pallet's down, as we have here, things get a little tricky because we can't vault from that side. So go ahead and run, Lily. Go ahead and vault to the inside. We lose all of our speed here, and that's a really difficult jump to hit. And now she can just go and hide right there in that corner. So we lost all our speed. We can't make that jump. If we were to jump over there, and that's a thing you'll often want to do, right? You'll think, okay, you know what? I'm Victor. I can just do this. Well, in that time, she can easily come over here and kick us. She didn't. Because she didn't need to in this case, but that's the thing that will often happen. So don't use like your mobility there. Instead, what you want to do is after you push them around that edge, they vault over, she goes running in that corner. They also might run into this corner here, or on the other side of that generator is especially a big hiding spot that people love because they know I can't hit them over there. Also, they're really set up for the fast vault to the window too, right? I can come around the side over here, and as they come out, see me and then go for that vault. We throw Victor on the back. Now we got something rolling again. And bring Charlotte out here, kick Shack pallet, whatever you need to do, right? So, some survivors will really kill you here. In those situations, you just have to know when to cut your losses sometimes. If they keep hitting this, if you don't have the right add-ons, if you don't have Toy Sword and Forest Stew in particular, two add-ons that we'll get into in later videos in this series, it can be really difficult to deal with survivors here. But I find that even with Shack Pallet down, you often can catch survivors napping. If they are hiding right here in particular around Shack Pallet, you might be dealing with a survivor that you're not going to be able to hit back here. But if they're hiding over here, or if they're lost a little bit over on this side, not quite sure about their positioning, then you're always be able to get them either at window or at the shack pallet. I really recommend just practicing this shot here quite a bit with shack pallet down. It's if twins or someone you want to find yourself playing a lot, being able to hit this consistently is really, really helpful. And even that shot right there, while not very clean and not perfect, will often hit. And even if it doesn't, they can't hit you there. When you're standing on top of the pallet, that can sometimes give you a complete chance to eat the whole cooldown and still be Victor without being kicked. So it's actually a relatively easy shot to hit if you go to the door and pretty much full charge, pull back, aim it up. You'll go through almost every time. So just get used to doing that one, and you'll be right as rain here at Shack. Now that basically covers the core mechanics of Victor, how to pounce, how to deal with killer instinct and using lockers and stuff like that. In our next videos, we're going to cover more tactics like how to use Victor in the course of a normal game, when best to deploy him, stuff like that. Future videos are going to cover best builds to use, add-ons, and also how to counter the twins as Survivor. What I'd really love to hear though is what would you all like to see? Hit us up in the comments and drop any questions or concerns you may have about the twins, and we can try to answer them in the comments and also cover them in future videos. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again on the next one. Take care.